Let us not dawdle, for there are grudges to settle, and new entries in the Dammer's Cron to right!
Howdy, howdy! Sudil here, and welcome to a battle between the Dwarfs and the Norscans. So, Dwarf versus Norsca is a matchup that I haven't played a whole lot. In fact, unfortunately, I played a game right before this against Pharaoh War, who has a YouTube channel. Hasn't been posting much, but he's been playing lately. Very solid player, and he brought a Norsca build. I had my old Norsca build where I was focusing on Iron Drakes, just to try and play with the idea of demolishing the infantry and using the rest of my troops to deal with the fast movers, and he absolutely demolished me. I wish I would have saved it, but I was just thinking about my build, and anyways. So I rebuilt my army to deal with all the Norscan big stuff, but I still wanted to have some way to deal with their really lowly armored front line. Anyways, so my leadership for this is I'm going to bring the Rune Lord with just the Rune of Wrath and Rune on foot for a cheap lord, a Runesmith with the Rune of Wrath and Rune, and a Thane. So the reason I'm bringing the Thane is so that because he has this Hex, which is minus 18% speed all around him, and just one more unit to get in the way of chariots and big stuff. And he can do all right against skin wolves or something like that. Maybe not the really armored stuff, but I thought, well, I'll bring that to slow things down. My front line is just 3 Longbeards with great weapons. So essentially anti-large armor piercing. They are backed up by 3 Miters with blasting charges, and these are really to get those blasting charges into the weak units. Into the lowly armored units. I have 2 Longbeards with great weapons in my back line to defend from rear charges, and here's my heavy hitters. I have the Dragonback Slayers, and I also have 2 Giant Slayers because I want to kill stuff fast, and I have 1 Bolt Thrower and 1 Gyrocopter. Again, this is from my experience, so kind of watching Umaze and his builds and his lists, and I really added 1 Gyrocopter with the Brimstone Gun and 1 Bolt Thrower, which I never had in my lineup before, to sort of deal with getting around the map and seeing what was going on. Now, this is a pretty small army. I mean, like, you look, I don't have much space, but I'm lined up over here, and I just want to pull my opponent down this way or down this way. So that's the idea, and then I can get shots, sort of, you can see my range with my bolt thrower sort of up in here, and then we can get going from there. So first thing I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to bring my Gyrocopter up to scout. Now, for his army, he has deployed off in the corner the Mist Stalkers from Mere Warriors. They have very, very good stats at 45 melee attack and 56 melee defense, but they do magic damage. They also, though, have the Armor Sundering, minus 30 armor, which is a pretty big deal. He also has the Beast of Tashnar, the Norscan Warhounds. They are anti-large and they have frenzy. They're very fast. They have actually decent enough stats, so they can put a big charge in there and they can get some stuff done. For his force over here, he has Marauder Champions, no armor piercing, 2 Marauder Berserkers. They're kind of all hidden in the trees. He does have, we see, Marauder Ice Wolf's Chariots, so just a group of 3 chariots, and they do have about 70 range. Armor piercing, and they, I believe, have frostbite. Yep, they're minus 36% speed, and he does have a Shaman Sorcerer of Metal, and that Shaman Sorcerer of Metal just has Plague of Rust for minus 30 armor and Searing Doom, and he also has Metal Shifting, so when he casts, everyone gets 10% armor piercing damage, and then more Marauder Berserkers. Now over hidden in these woods, obviously he was very worried about artillery and wanted to make sure he did not start in range of any artillery or in any danger. He has 3 Marauder Berserkers up here. Marauder Berserkers are a pretty decent unit. We have done a lot of testing on them, and they can buzzsaw things. They have 57 weapon strength, and they go through their mechanic pretty fast. Stage 1, 22% physical resistance. Stage 2, 30 seconds of 13 plus 13 melee attack, and 22% physical resistance. And stage 3 plus 13 melee attack, 22% physical resistance, and rampage. But that 57 weapon strength gets things done. They do not have a good melee defense, only 24 melee defense and no armor. This is the Miners of the Blasting Charges. That is their job. He also has a second sorcerer of metal. And, okay, These things are always such a pain to get. Okay, second Sorcerer of Metal, who also have Plague of Rust for the -30 armor, Searing Doom for the Bombshell and the Metal Shifting. So lastly, no, not lastly, he does have Throg, the Troll here, and he does have the Wintertooth Crown, so he's unbreakable for 24 seconds. When he puts that on, he has Fight or Die, plus 26 melee attack, plus 16 leadership. He does have Copious Vomit, so it's Powerful Explosion, good against armor, strong against a single unit, 3 uses of that. He has Foe Seeker for the extra 24% speed, and he's not slow to begin with, 56 armor. And he does have Regeneration and does cause Fear. And he does have Missile Resistance of 15%, but he has a Fire Weakness of 25%. He causes Frostbite when he hits something, and he has a big bonus versus large. And that is pretty much his army. So I'm going to get things going here. Like I said, first things first, I'm trying to go and see what that army is doing. I don't see anything, so I'm not really sure what to do over here. I really want to sort of figure out what's going on over here. And this is the beauty of this darn gyrocopter. It's just so handy to have just the one. You know, I'm just going to go kind of over this way and try and see where is everything. So I'm going to start actually seeing things here. So I don't see these guys right away. They're still hidden. This guy comes out. He's going to try and hit me. So I'm just going to move over this way. And really what I'm doing is I'm watching my map really closely. I have a hard time watching my map. That's actually really hard to do. And I'm sort of moving around and moving around and moving around. I want to see what else there is. I haven't really seen anything else, so we get the gyrocopter over here, and I'm going to see some of this stuff. And I just want to stay away from this Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot. And there we go, we see some more, so I was like, okay, he is in the trees. I get it. So he's kind of hiding, and then I noticed these guys on my map. So he's still hidden, but he's not. So I see them on my map, and I'm like, okay, I just want to get away from here, so I'm just going to get away from the Chariot. Chariot has 95 speed, Gyrocopter has 100, so I just want to pull down this line and go this way and draw them into my artillery. My artillery is right here, and then he sees it and turns, and I thought, well, if he's not going to come, I'm just going to make a beeline for these guys and start that way. So I haven't seen all of his forces. I know he's got some of the trees, but I'm like, listen, I'm in no rush whatsoever. I'm just going to take my gyrocopter. I can get over there faster than he can. I can just fly straight there. I know where he is. He's somewhere over here. He's hidden now, but I know they're over here somewhere. And he's sort of just bringing his chariots over and sort of mirroring me, and I'm bringing over. Maybe he doesn't realize I know where they are because he's now parked. And maybe he thinks I'm trying to get around and just try to keep looking. Really, all I want to do is encourage him to walk into my artillery. Now you can see here, I'm starting to sort of form my lines a little bit. I'm thinking I want to sort of either pick a corridor and set up like down there. And now I'm moving over here. I still haven't seen them. I know they're in here somewhere, so I'm just going to fly over. I can, I didn't see if they had any ability to shoot, but there we go. So we see them. I'm like, all right, so there we go. We got Miststalkers, Premier Warriors. So I'm just going to go ahead and shoot at them. His army's now starting to come out. I'm like, I'll go ahead and shoot them. So they don't have regeneration, so I mean the damage is going to be there. And he immediately starts going away. I'm going to miss a lot of shots because I'm in the trees. But then I see these guys sitting right there. Like, you get a few more shots. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to mosey on over here and do a nice little bombing run. There I go. I'm like, might as well get my bombs off on these guys. I don't know really how good they are, but, why not? There we go. We did a good chunk of damage to them. Brought them from 3,600 health to 3,570. And that they start at 45, so 1,000 health. And then I'm like, okay, here comes his chariot. It's time to go back. Okay, he is setting up, coming down here. So really, I want to reset, and I've already reset my army to come down this corridor. And you can see my artillery's here. He's chasing me away, so I'm like, I'm going to run away. And then I see him turn. I'm like, whoop, let's just get in a free shot. We'll get in a bit of free damage because we do have anti-large armor piercing. And you say get a few shots in here, and now I'm just going to keep moving. And then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to go shoot a sorcerer. And this is like really, it's stressful to get your stuff shot at and killed. I know, because I've had that so many times playing the Dowie. So I'm in no rush. you know, this is all good. I'll just let this get ready. I have my guys here ready for his Marauders. I mean, I've got my leadership here ready to go. You know, I see his chariots over here now. So I just want to go. I don't want to shoot Throg because he can regenerate. I want to shoot at his wizard. Now, his wizard's not on a mount, but we're just... his wizard can't heal. So we're just going to start shooting at him. I've got no reason not to. I mean, I could try and go for some of these other units, but I thought, well, I might as well try and get his magic and let it go that way. So he's just like, he can't let me sit there because I am gonna kill him. You know, he can bring, I can see he's bringing his guy over, but now he gives the command, and you can see we're in range, and my artillery can start firing. So I'm just gonna keep putting some pressure on that Sorcerer of Metal, and you can see I've knocked him over. You know, he's now down from 18 down to 1832 from 2500, so he's down 700 hit points. But you know, he's just not going to be able to stand up. The chariots are on the way in, and now it's time for me to get out of dodge. So I can bring my gyrocopter. Where's my gyrocopter? Right there. So I just control clicked it back here. I figure out, well, I'll just bring it right here and then figure out what I'm going to do. I want to make sure my lines are okay, so I'm going to shift my Longbeards over here, shift my miners with blasting charges behind. The reason you put the miners with blasting charges behind and not in front is you want to get all of their blasting charges off. You don't want to waste those blasting charges. Now, I don't have the perfect position because I got a bit of a downhill position here. I get it. But I mean, what I have in the back here waiting, that is not going to be fun. So really, everything's coming down here. I see Throg. So now I'm just going to start aiming at Throg. He's sitting in here, so I'm going to start shooting at him. I know he regenerates, but I want to start putting pressure. And here we go. I put a Rune and Wrath and Rune to slow him down with the Master Rune of Wrath and Rune and the Rune of Wrath and Rune. And they're going to charge. Boom. Here goes all my blasting charges. I'll make sure I get those off. And just make sure I get all my blasting charges off on my miners. Boom. There we go. Already. Those two things, this group of Marauder Berserkers is down to 50 models, and they're going to be routing right away. I've got my miners with blasting charges over here. I want to get them a little bit out. I have pulled in my Longbeards with great weapons, my extra unit here, because I want to make my blasting charges onto these Icehorn Marauders, and I've got my heroes on the way over here. I just want to go and beat them up. I brought them down to 31 speed. Already got rid of these Marauder Berserkers. He does have some guys that are going to be coming back around here, but this is not what they want to do. So he's going to try, I believe, and dodge right around, but there's nowhere to enter here. And I don't have any ranged in here except for my bolt thrower, which is the honeypot. So I got my miners with blasting charges here. They've got their blasting charges off. These Marauder Berserkers have come in. These Marauder Berserkers come in. And now I sort of have a bit of a hole in my line because I shifted. But now I'm just shooting at Throg, and I don't think he notices that Throg is getting beat up. He's trying to bring his chariots in and exploit that. The Beasts of Tashnar have come in, and I've really intercepted them with my Dragonback Slayers, and we're just going to push them off and beat them down. I've got my Giant Slayers coming into action now. I want to go against the Shaman Sorcerer, the Marauder Icewolf Chariots. I'm moving my Longbeards back and moving my Giant Slayers in to hit these Miststalkers. And these Miststalkers, I mean, they're a dangerous unit versus the Dao, but against Giant Slayers, they're going to hurt. And Longbeards with great weapons are no picnic either for them, right? They've got no real great choices here. I mean, I think he wants to go through and get to my bolt thrower, but this is not going to end well, because you can see my Giant Slayers are just going to town on him. You know, he's beating up my bolt thrower, but all I do is I just take my bolt thrower, take them out, and I beat the Beast of Tashnar, and now I come in with my Dragonback Slayers, and my Giant Slayers are kicking the crap out of these guys. Like, so fast they are dying. You can see they're just falling over. And they're a good unit. The Miststalkers, they're a really good unit. They're down to 1,400 health. They're already broken. They're already getting the heck out of dodge. And now he's brought in his Marauder Berserkers. I can engage that line with my Longbeards with great weapons. I brought my miners back here just to be an extra unit. And now I can actually pull these guys back into place. I can move my Slayers up here, and this I've managed to get rid of these Icehorn Marauders. I've got to manage to get rid of the Shaman Sorcerer with metal, and I'm fighting here no problem. My Longbeards with great weapons against Marauder Berserkers are holding just fine. I've got everything else going good here. We're going after that Marauder Icewolf Chariot, and now I can actually send my Gyrocopter. It's run out of bullets. We've actually been able to deal mostly with Throg. He's up here, sort of, he has to stay away now because he can't come anywhere near my Giant Slayers, just nowhere near them at all. So I've got everyone engaged. The front line is good. And why didn't I bring these guys up? I don't know. I have them sitting there ready. There we go. Just as I speak, I'm like, man, I thought I brought these up. So here I'm bringing them up. And I got these extra miners, so I didn't really engage them. So I can really just post them up over here. And just in case something like something over here comes up, I've managed to deal with things over here. We do have these Beasts of Tashnar coming again, so I see them with my miners. I can go after the Beasts of Tashnar. They're not going to last very long. I can put my Giant Slayers up here and my Dragonback Slayers, and I'm going to send them into the Sorcerer of Metal and send him into Throg. I'm going to send my Gyrocopter also into Throg, so I can just hold him still with my Gyrocopters and make sure my Giant Slayers and can get there and beat the crap out of him. This front line, I mean, it's not the best front line in the world, but it's held long enough. This side is now held. All my leadership is good. I've really been able to route everything on this side. I do have my Bolt Thrower back up. I do have some miners with blasting charges all used up back here. And really, we're just going after their units one by one and trying to route them off. And, you know, pretty straightforward, I think. I've managed pretty straightforward victory. You know, much different from my first game with Pharaoh War. Pharaoh War was I think was a much stronger player than I am. I think Nikolai is probably about my skill level. You know, he forgets things, I forget things. You can see how long I left my freaking Bolt Thrower not on the Bolt Throwers. He forgot Throg. You know, we ran around the map a little bit, but we're kind of in that same range. His build is going to be just fine against Dawi. There's nothing really wrong with his build. And, you know, I think the build much better than my first one. I wish I could show it. I could show you the build. I mean, it really I had 4 Iron Drakes with flamethrowers and 2. I had an idea. It failed horribly. So I thought, well, I'm going to make this lineup a lot beefier, put in those Giant Slayers, and you know what? If he does bring a lot of infantry, he does. But guess what? Chariots and large stuff like Famir are going to have a very unpleasant time in my back line. And really, 5 Longbeards with great weapons. Really, these are all good against Chariot, charge defense against large, armor piercing, and the miners with blasting charges, their blasting charges did all right. I'm going to say 38 kills with the Rune Lord, 40 with the Rune Smith, and 31 with the Thane. 27, 15, and 18 with the miners with blasting charges. Longbeards with great weapons did okay. You know, 24, 25, 40, 42, and 31. It's funny enough, they are going to do all right against Berserkers because they don't have, they're not an armor piercing unit. But you know, they still got outclassed by the Berserkers for sure. The Longbeards with great weapons are not as good a unit as the Berserkers. And you can see the Berserkers 83, 95, 49, 56, 36, and 24, and I focused on them in the front. They're 63 with the Dragonback Slayers. They beat up those Beasts of Tashnar, but these guys that got 2 chevrons, they beat up the Firmir Warriors, 29 kills, 7 kills with my Giant Slayers, no kills with my Gyrocopters, but 2 chevrons, and only 5 kills with my Bolt Thrower, but 5 chevrons. And for the rest of his army, Throg only got 11. Really, he was trying to protect him. Should have probably popped him in that fight and just gone all out with him. Shaman Sorcerer of Metal, 4 and 1. The Icehorn Marauders, a 0. I really did focus them down with my heroes. And the Marauder Champions, 28. You know, not nearly as good as the Berserkers. The Berserkers are a really good unit, I think. Ice Wolf Chariot, again, just played a little back and forth, and once the Giant Slayers got on top of them, that was it. Beasts of Tashnar 4, and the Mist Stalkers, Familiar Warriors, only 2. Those Giant Slayers are absolutely devastating against those units. Now, when I look at this, you know, I do have enough to get around with this Gyrocopter. I felt good. Like, usually I really like to have Quarrelers and Thunders and sort of a strong back line, but it is really hard to protect. It is not that hard to protect one Bolt Thrower. And even then, it was he got through and forced me off it. But if you don't protect it, it's only 550 gold. It's not like it's the end of the world, but that one Bolt Thrower seems to be like a magnet, and everyone wants to get in there and get it. And like, what are going to be what are your happy targets here? The Dragonback Slayers? No. Longbeards with great weapons? No. Giant Slayers? No. There's no good targets back here, unless you have a unit with range and non-armor piercing. Then there's some good targets. But if they have range and non-armor piercing, I have a place to focus my bolt thrower and my gyrocopters and my bombs, which they didn't have. So I thought it was a good, fun game, and I really enjoyed it. And I liked the little back and forth at the beginning with the gyrocopter with brimstone gun. That one gyrocopter was just wonderful. I enjoyed it. I would highly recommend one gyrocopter to everyone's build just to play around with. Like, in the brimstone gun is solid now, and one bolt thrower. Like, I've been going with the no artillery for the longest time, and in a lot of builds, and I still have a lot of builds with no artillery, but this sort of configuration, setting your honeypot, because I have no other range in this build, and being able to still scout the map as the Dowie was beautiful. Like, had I not been able to do that, I probably would have gone halfway up that corridor before he sprung his trap on me, and he would have had me surrounded on two sides. This way, I got to see everything with the gyrocopter and just pick where I wanted to battle, funnel them down to where I wanted to, and get some damage in before the fight even started. It was really wonderful. I really enjoyed this game, even though it wasn't terribly exciting, because it is exciting for me to be fielding a much better build. And if you would have saw the game against Pharaoh O'War, oh my God, did he demolish me. Now, would he have demolished me with this army against the army he's having? Maybe. He's just a better player than I am, but this army would have done a lot better, because he had, I don't know how many chariots. It was painful. He just crushed me over and over and over. I could not stop him at all. But I never had any Slayers in that builder. Maybe I had one set of Slayers, but 2 Giant Slayers? Now that's got to be scary to a chariot. It's got to be. And I can slow it down with the Runesmith and the Rune Lord and that Thane. So, anyways, love to hear from you. Have you played against Norsca recently with the Dowie? Do you have any sort of set builds you like to have with the Dowie against Norsca? I'd love to hear from you on that front. Do you play Norsca against the Dwarfs? What kind of builds do you like to take? Is this the kind of build that you like, with sort of a heavy Marauder Berserker front line? Do you like a more chariot focused, more Femir Warriors focused? Like, what's your thought? Do you take Throg, or is it Wolfric the Wanderer? Really, I would like to hear from both sides. I always ask for comments because I love them so much, even if you're just stopping in to say hello. With that said, I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.